I work with Live Nation. These are not evil people. These are human beings. However, it is a massive publicly traded company that is accountable to its shareholders, where profit is the only incentive. There's like the ticket price, which is, let's say anywhere from $10 to $200, depending on what kind of artist you're going to see. And the artist will take, after the costs of the show, after the marketing, after the security, after the venue rental, that they will take a portion of that anywhere from, as low as like 20% to maybe 70% or 80%. And the crazy thing of, the sort of monopolized world that we're in right now is that, when the same company owns the venue, is taking the bar sales, is taking the venue rental fee, and then also is, the promoter on the show. And so then is taking a cut from, ticket sales and revenue, but then is also the ticketing site, and then is tacking on fees, which are sometimes like almost 100% of what the actual ticket fee is. You have a situation where the actual artist performing is earning like a very, very small amount of all of the money that is sort of happening in the scenario. And it's not, I don't see it as in people being evil or bad. It's just that this is sort of the way that the industry has generally gone. And often what happens is that you have these artists, the big marquee artists, who get a big check from, one of the bigger players. And they say, look, we're just going to give you this fee. It's actually more than the cost of all the tickets combined. And they basically leverage the weight that they have in all of their various different categories, to give the artist a big check, and then they will be the bad guy, and the artist gets to make their money. And then they collect in parking fees and, everything else. They sort of conglomerate all of the access points to consumers in this situation. Now, that is, a sort of symptom of the fact that we have an just an unnatural amount of desire to see those 1% of artists, the Taylor Swifts, the Lizzos, the Billie Eilish, Coldplay, whatever. There's, everybody wants to see these very, very small amount of acts. And with Side Door, we sort of envision a world with a much larger middle class of artistry, where it would be way more normal to go to your neighbor's backyard and see somebody who you've never heard of, but it's so close to you, the proximity is so accessible. Why not go and check it out? And why not have an artistic experience close to home, in a setting where it's, there's a little bit more, I don't know, transparency around the finances. So with Side Door, we can say that, in general, with most of our shows, the artists are taking between 70 and 90% of the ticket. And it's a very clear, transparent, sort of friendly environment.
Can you describe basically how Side Door functions and what inspired the formation of it?
Well, I played a lot of house concerts as I was beginning my own career. And I always found that they were really rewarding, in a sort of artistic sense. But that also, because the costs were so low, often I would make way more money playing to 30 people in a living room than I would if I played to those same 30 people in a bar. And, when the numbers are that small, the cost of touring is just way too intense. And basically the presumption is that you just have to go out on the road and lose money until you are discovered, or, the industry takes notice of you, or what have you, break through the gatekeepers. So I had a keen interest in this from early on. And I sort of had this philosophy that if your footprint cannot be wide, let it be deep. Fox paw in the snow, make a lasting impression with 30, 40, 50 people if you can't sell 1,000 tickets, kind of thing. And when I met Laura, she'd been hosting this incredible house concert series out in Halifax, and we were introduced by a mutual friend. And it just became very clear that we had similar interests, and actually eerily similar ideas of what could be built to sort of, international marketplace for the arts, where any space is a venue. So we founded Side Door in 2017, and though we were derailed by the pandemic and, kind of swerved into online shows, we've gone back to our initial core purpose, which is very much to connect artists with, everyday people, allowing regular fans to become stakeholders in the industry and to host and curate where in the spaces where they have. And it's truly a win for everybody. These hosts get to bring together their community and the arts, and sort of decentralizes the epicenters. It's not just in the downtown cores. The artists are making a living, they're getting paid, and the audiences get these incredible intimate experiences, in spots where you might not expect it.
The biggest thing is like you don't have the revenue from selling records. You're lucky if you have a sync deal and that's coming in. We just in Canada lost CBC Radio 3 on SiriusXM. That was a huge chunk of change that came in for artists on a regular basis. So, it really means that we're losing not only artists who are on tour, but artists in general. They're having to either completely go full time into another job or just quit music altogether. And I think that's a real tragedy with some of the music that we're losing. It's really destroying the ecosystem right now.
Yeah, and I think that I envision a worst case scenario where there are no more small clubs. There's no more sort of like pollination breeding ground for up and coming bands. There is only people who go viral on TikTok and arena tours, and it's like that the fans only know people because of social media, and the only concerts you can go to are in arenas because those are the only kinds of, scale that is sustainable to, in that ecosystem. And that sounds really scary to me, as somebody who has spent a lot of time in bars and clubs performing and also meeting other bands and seeing bands. And I think that what ends up happening in that circumstance is a homogenization of art, a weakening of culture, and a sort of a weakening, resilient heart of a civilization in general. If all we have is pop stars, and we need a sustainable place for all kinds of weird art to occur, where people to take risks. Where people can, experience and be exposed to things that, they might not find on their algorithm. I think it's really important on a sort of philosophical level that we have a big, wide middle class of artistry. And it's something that we're working very hard to try and foster.
I think that it's interesting. I was just at a conference for the last 5 days talking to artists about agency and the lack of feeling like they have, if they don't even like literally have an agent, they may not even feel like they have the agency to determine the terms of engagement. And so I think it's important to remember the power imbalance that they face when they're looking for a gig or they're looking for something. There's just the supply and demand issue in this situation is like there's just so many artists that the venues and the promoters can be really, really choosy and really, really harsh with negotiations with artists. But at the same time, there are lots of supporters and fans who have no particular stake or need for revenue in the market. So that's sort of where we find our best hosts is people who are music fans first, who want to participate. And in those cases, the artists are finding more agency of like, this is what I need. I want to set the ticket price to this. Like it's only a go if we sell this many tickets. And in that way, they can start to determine a little bit more of their future by saying these are the things that I need to make this a go. And I find that more in these smaller shows that they're a little more able to say what they need.
I think the problem is that you have a system with a lot of conflict of interest. If you have a big pie and the pie is this is a show going on in a city, when one company owns or controls 99% of all of the interested parties in producing that show, whether it's the venue, the all of the infrastructure needed, the promotion, and in some cases, I think Live Nation is starting to be kind of act as an agent as well. That they really are just taking more and more and more and more and more of the pie. So there's not a lot of reason for them to negotiate with themselves. They can kind of say, oh yeah, we'll take a hit here because then we know we're going to make all our money here. but they're not necessarily acting for the benefit of the artist, and they're not acting for the benefit of the consumer. They're acting for the benefit of the shareholder. And so it's I'm not a specialist. I'm not like a labor lawyer or an economist. I think that, if there are some dicey practices at play, yes, of course they should be held accountable, just like any other kind of company. But again, like, I don't see them as evil or bad so much as the sort of result of an industry that has in dire need for some alternatives, and Side Door offers an alternative for artists, for concert goers, and for fans, hosts alike. It creates another option that might be a little bit friendlier.